I truly believe that your emotions and your mindset have a deep connection to how you utilize money, how happy you are in your life. Money is a tool. It's very much like a hammer. A hammer can be used for good or for bad. A hammer can be used to build a house for a family in need, or a hammer can be used to smash out the front window of an enemy's car. Money is not inherently bad or good. It is a tool to help go through life, to purchase things that you need. It can be used for bad as well. And it's just a lot of times a mindset shift that needs to take place for you to be able to get into a better place about your spending habits, about how much you save, about how you feel about money, and allowing it into your life in a good way. In today's video, I'm going to shift a bit and talk to you about some pieces of advice or wisdom that if you could take even one or two of them into your thoughts, change some of those habits or ways of thinking, then you can legitimately change your life. This video timing is very interesting and fitting for what I have to talk about, as I just found out that a close family friend who we've known for 30 plus years passed away this morning unexpectedly. So I want to dedicate this video to her and to her family. May God welcome you home. This is a reminder that your time here on earth is short. It will go by in the blink of an eye, and you absolutely never know when someone will pass on and go on. You never know. And why I say that is, we're always chasing something. We're always chasing happiness. We're always chasing money and thinking money or the next job or the next position or the next house or the next car or the next pair of Lululemon leggings is going to make us happy. And I want to talk to you guys. The last 2 years, I've really shifted my mindset in a lot of things and grown, and a lot of things have changed in my life. And I don't share half of who I am on this channel, and that's going to start changing. I want to share more of myself, not my family, as I'm very private that way, but more of what I actually think, of what I am learning, how I am growing, and what I am discovering about life and about the world. So in today's video, we're going to talk about those pieces of wisdom. So let's get started. The first one is, would you say the things that you say about yourself to someone else? Oftentimes, people speak very negatively to themselves. Their inner voice is always putting them down, shaming them, making them feel embarrassed, making them feel bad about everything, making them regret things. Would you say those things to somebody else? Have you ever caught yourself in the mirror going, I've got those hips, they're never going to go away, they look terrible, I look terrible in this, my hair just never looks good, I wish it were curly, I am so overweight, I'm so underweight, I don't have enough muscular tone, my arms are so flabby, I can't wear short sleeve shirts, I have acne, I have a big nose. This is what I've said all my life about my nose, but it's actually a family trait from my native origins that are very deep and very saturated for me. And I now appreciate it. But, I think back now to how I talk to myself, and I want to preface this by saying you're never going to be perfect in any of the things that I'm talking about today, ever. You're going to be working on them every single day. But I am a firm believer that once you are conscious, most of the people in the world live unconsciously. They don't ever even consider the things going on in their head that they could change them. The thoughts that they have, the way they speak to people, they don't consider it. They just think it's their world just continuing on. And they, rather than face any sort of self-improvement, continue going to work, coming home, fixing dinner, ordering out, watching TV, going to bed, getting up, taking the kids to school, going to work, etc. And it's a constant loop. But if this video teaches you everything or anything, it's At the end of your life, how do you want to be remembered? You will not be remembered by the amount of money you had or didn't have, by what you bought and what you didn't buy, by if you bought that Lululemon pants or not. You will be remembered by how you treated people and how kind you were, or how unkind you were, vice versa. So think about how you speak to yourself. The next time you catch yourself saying something negative that you would never speak to another person, then realize that you shouldn't be speaking that way to yourself. The second one is very important as well. You cannot change the past. Unless you are some sort of time traveler, you cannot change the past. We spend so much of our time thinking about mistakes we made, bad decisions that happened, somebody who upset us, somebody who hurt us. We spend so much time dwelling on that in the present, in the future, and we're going to continue to do it. So what you're doing to yourself is you are not only hurting then, but you're going to continue to hurt yourself thinking about that. What good is it? Unless you can change something about that time, what good is it thinking about it and dwelling on it? I think it's Mel Robbins who says that something that happens. Is this thing going to matter in the next 5 minutes? Is this thing going to matter in the next 5 months? Is this thing going to matter in the next 5 years? And if you can say no to all of that, or even just the 5 months or the 5 years. So let's say you get in an argument with a coworker. Is this going to matter in the next 5 minutes? Probably. It's not going to be over at that point. Is it going to matter in the next 5 months? Probably not. Is it going to matter in the next 5 years? Definitely not. If you take that into perspective, you will start realizing that most of the things that happen are just life's way of happening. And that things that have happened in the past or that happened, yes, you may need to go back and say, you know what? I'm going to acknowledge that this happened, and maybe you need to apologize for something. Maybe you need to set the path redirected, and so that you can move on from it. Once you realize that you can't change the past and anything that's happened, you will learn to accept it, acknowledge whether it was a mistake or a failure, and learn from it and move on. The third one are that words are poisonous. Your words can be used for good or for bad, same as money. Your words can influence another person beyond belief. Just think about the person in your life when you were growing up that said you couldn't do something. And then you took on that persona. Well, so-and-so said, I couldn't do it. Those words that maybe or maybe not that person meant for however you accepted them or perceived them, changed the course of your life. Think about this. The same words that you say do that to other people. If you are in, an office, a school environment, a family environment, and you were gossiping or you're saying things about other people, those words are penetrating that other person unless that other person is now conscious of certain things and can put a boundary and block that. What you should realize is, let's take a scenario, okay? Let's use that same work environment. Let's say that Susan and Jessica are friends, and Susan used to work with Sally, who's getting ready to start in a new role at that company. And Susan had a bad experience with Sally. They didn't get along. Their working personalities were completely different. Whether or not that scenario was good or bad, Sally has changed. Sally is not that same person. She has changed, become more conscious in life, and is doing better. But Susan remembers how Sally acted 8-9 years ago. And Susan then tells Jessica all these stories. Susan and Jessica are really good friends at the office. So when Sally starts, what does Jessica already think of Sally? Probably not anything good. Susan's words poisoned Jessica's perception of someone she had never met. Let's assume that Jessica never heard that story. Let's assume that Susan never said anything negative about Sally. And Sally came in, Jessica met her, they hit it off. Susan and Sally reconnected, and they realized that, yeah, at that point in their life, 8 or 9 years ago, they weren't on the same page, the same kind of journey, but now they can have an appreciation for each other. Whereas if she had poisoned Sally to Jessica, the whole dynamic is completely different. This happens all the time. We don't allow people to make their own assumptions or judgments or see somebody for who they are, because if we've known them before, we go ahead and put these little bugs, these little worms of our perception of a situation, whether right or wrong, in their head. The fourth one is that everyone's path is their own. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about other people, and again, using their words, and say, I can't believe she did this. Can you believe that person made this decision? Why would they marry that person? Why would they move across the country? Does that seem like a good idea? Here's my question to you. If you decided to move across the country, do you think it fair for other people to judge that decision? Probably not. So why do you think it's fair for you to judge somebody else's decision? You're not in their shoes. You don't have their family. Even if they are family, maybe they have their own their own family now, meaning their partner and their children. Who says that your opinion on their decision matters? Who says that that decision is bad for them? Yeah, what if it doesn't work out? Then that's a lesson learned for them. And that's a growth opportunity in their life. But as much as you wouldn't want other people making judgments or assumptions or assertions or making comments about a decision you as an adult have made for yourself, then think about the next time you start to do the same with others. Now again, I'm going to come back into this video and say, I am not perfect. I do these things probably at least once a day, one of these things. Speaks negatively into my head, make judgments in my head when I shouldn't. But it's at the time when you become conscious of these decisions, of these things that are happening, that you will start to see a snowball effect. Whereas let's say you do 10 of these things a day. Well, once you start realizing it, maybe the next week you're only down to 8, and maybe the next week you're only about 3 times a day when this happened, when you caught yourself. And then soon it's a rare occurrence when your brain goes away from these pieces of wisdom, these life-changing perspectives and realizations of the world. And I am not saying that my advice, my opinions are for everybody. What I'm trying to share here is that there are a lot of times when we may be unhappy or upset, that it is our own ability to respond, and we have caused this on ourselves. And if we can take control and make our own decisions, then maybe we can save ourselves from heartache, save ourselves from further hurt, and again, save ourselves from trying to do things that might make us feel better, external things that might make us happier. And that's where you get to, the part that connects with my channel. Whereas, people who go out and spend a lot of money on things all the time may be looking for some sort of happiness in things, in spending, in socializing with shopping. I kind of touched on this one in the previous message, but that's another point here is opinions. Just because you have an opinion does not mean it's right for everybody. does not mean it's everybody else's opinion. And I am so glad that people have differing opinions, because how bland of a world would it be if we didn't? We would never learn. We would never grow. I think it's amazing to see the different creative ways people are, different way people think. And if we can not close off, meaning, my opinion is the right way. It's my way or the highway. And what I know, what I believe is the fact. Your opinion is not a fact. Some things people really don't ever really know are a fact or not. It's just something that they've grown up being programmed with, and they think now, because they were programmed it with, and it became part of their identity, they believe it to be true. Not everything is that way. And what I'm going to ask you to do is be more open-minded. Rather than immediately go, nope, don't think so, nope, you're not going to disrupt my picture of what I believe, which actually is what I was programmed to believe, because I didn't come here initially believing or knowing any of this. Be open. Instead of responding as soon as something comes out of somebody's mouth, sit on it. Sit in it for a minute and think about it. And one of the things I credit myself for now, I make mistakes every day. It's just human nature. But one of the things that I have been able to do over the last 18 months to 2 years is really be open. And I want to hear other ways of doing things, the way other cultures are, things that people do. I want to hear other people's perspectives to understand more. The more you understand an argument, both sides, the more likely you are to be able to see the truth of what is. My next piece of wisdom is to let go of what you cannot control. If there is something you cannot control, why do you allow it to consume your nights? Meaning you're trying to sleep and it's just rolling around in your head. Why do you allow it to consume your drive to work when you could be thinking about something more pleasant, or listen to some 90s R&B and really, enjoying your drive and letting your soul dance? Why? It's the same thing, earlier I talked about how you can't control the past, or how you want to try to control other people's decisions, meaning, don't move across the country. That's a bad idea. That's not your decision to make. You cannot control so many things that happen in the world. If you're an environmental person, all you can do really at a personal level is control how you impact the environment. Yes, you can start foundations, you can start public speaking, you can, spend time becoming an influencer, promoting minimalism. And yes, those can, create larger followings, but the people impacting that are fewer and far between, meaning the percentage is slim to get to that level. But what I'm saying is, if you can do and control, if you start to control and stop worrying about what you can't control, right? I think it's people start to worry about what they can't control, because that is easier than controlling what they can, than changing their bad behavior, than changing the way they think. It is easier to complain and to say, this needs to be different about this, and this needs to be different about this, about something you can't control, than it is to realize you can't control, what kind of toxic food, fast food you're putting in your body, how much you are overspending and putting on your credit card. We find the path of least resistance, and this is one of them. On that same thought, this piece of wisdom is worrying goes nowhere. Usually 99% of the things you worry about don't actually happen. I'll talk about an experience of someone who was getting ready to travel for a extended trip to another state where they're from for a funeral, right? And they were so worried that all these things, I'm going to see this person and that person. I'm so stressed out for weeks because it was one of those out-of-state things that they pushed off for a bit. And I just thought, what if it turns out to be an amazing weekend? What if you actually get closure? What if it's an experience you always remember in a positive way? So the time came and went, and they had a good time. It was beautiful. They were able to say goodbye to their loved one. They were able to reminisce. I'm sure some things were rocky here and there, but the amount of worry for the amount of time that it was worried about compared to the little bit of maybe uncomfortableness that happened for the short period of time, you torture yourself so much worrying about something that's not going to happen or likely not going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that bad things don't happen, people. No, but if you spent your entire life worrying that you were going to get in a plane accident every time you got in a plane, even when you weren't even flying for 2 months, every morning you woke up with anxiety, how is that living? My last piece of wisdom is about goal setting. There's always this push for goal setting at the beginning of the year, and we always think that once we get to a certain income level, once we get a certain house, once we get a certain car, once we get all our debt paid off, we're gonna be happy. Why can't we choose to be happy now? A lot of times, now this is not for everybody, a lot of times where you are right now in your life, you previously wanted to be there. And you thought once you were there, which you're there now, that you would finally be happy. But turns out, once you get there, you think, nope, not going to be happy till I'm here. It's kind of like being at mile 1, thinking once you get to mile 2, you're going to be happy. But then you're at mile 2 and you're like, nope, I got to get to mile 3. Then I'll be happy. When you try to find happiness in external things or things that are not here yet, not tangible, not easily accessible, then you're never going to feel happy in the moment. And in the case of this situation, this tragedy that I talked about at the beginning of the video, you run out of time, right? You don't get there. I just don't want that for anybody. I want to find happiness in the daily. In realizing that what you are currently living for right now is what somebody else is praying for. There are how many ever billions of people in this world, right? If you have access to this video and you're watching it, say on a computer or a phone, you're in probably the top 20 to 30% of the world, of the people in the world. There are so many people, even without running water, indoor facilities, or knowing where their next meal is coming from. I'm sure you heard all this before. My point is perspective. And this is one that I have to constantly remind myself of. It's probably one of the most of ones I have to constantly remind myself of, because I have always thought when I get here, that's when I'll be successful. When I get here, that's when I'll be successful. When I get this, when I reach this number, when I reach this debt-free, when I get the house paid off. And I realized that I'm now spending all these years while I'm trying to get there, because it doesn't happen immediately. What am I, being unhappy? So find the happiness in the everyday. Find the happiness in your morning coffee. Find the happiness in your morning donut. Find the happiness in your friends. See what you can find. And that's why they say, the gratitude journals. And then people are like, well, I'm not going to do that. That's silly. It really puts your life into perspective. I hope this video helped you in some way. I know it's a little bit different from the topics that I talk about, but it's something that I wholeheartedly believe, and I think it's one of those things that people kind of in this niche don't really talk about as much. They talk about the practical things that you can do, and I do too, and I will continue going forward. The practical things you can do to, live a simple life, to build wealth, get out of debt, to be frugal. And anybody can take those into account, but I think at a deep-rooted level, it really starts in your mind and with your mindset and your perspective of what's going on around you. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you back for more videos.